This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He's Greg, I'm Nick, and we are part of the CLNS Media Network. This episode is brought to you by Prizepicks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Greg, let's start with Marcus Jones. News came out just a little while ago as we record this early afternoon on Thursday that he won the AFC Defensive Player of the Month. When you just watch him on film, you've watched him this season, the improvements of his game, did you ever see him getting to this level at all by the time, he finishes his third, fourth year in the NFL?
No, not really. I think they're personally, and the film sort of backs this up. Not all that long ago, I don't know if you remember, Nick, and it was sort of like, let's just talk about this season. The preseason, like the joint practices, like the one in Minnesota, like he had a really rough time. I don't know how much he played in the preseason. I don't have that in front of me, but I distinctly remember a point early on in this season where Charles Woods was starting to get some reps at slot corner. And I in my opinion, Marcus was struggling for a while, end of the summer, beginning of the season. And I thought it was my impression from watching how they were deploying guys in the playing time. I thought that they were putting that spot into a little bit of competition because Marcus Jones was getting picked on because of his size, and he was having a rough time in the practices and the preseason games. And then suddenly, partly due to injuries, and he just kicked in the afterburners. And he's been probably since like week one. I should really look up my grades to see what I had for him. He's been lights out. For basically like, the past month, 6 weeks, or so. I just wanted to look. So Marcus Jones, no, he graded positive week one, neutral. He had a negative in Pittsburgh. He did not play well, but over the last 4 weeks. So it's Buffalo, New Orleans, he was outstanding. Tennessee, really good, very good in this game as well. So yeah, basically the last 4 games, he's been great.
And we got the specifics on his contract, by the way. Mike Reese posted this a little bit earlier today. It's a 3-year extension, as we knew, $36 million, as we knew. The cap hits now. His cap hit goes up this year, interestingly enough, at $4.3 million. And then he's got 6.3 of a cap hit next year. And then pretty much 13 the final 2 years of the deal. So I would say the way he's playing, and of course what he does on special teams as well, it's a pretty good deal for the Patriots and a good deal for Marcus Jones. It's been a really good week for him. He gets his new contract. He gets Defensive Player of the Month. So congratulations to him. Other news going on: Keion White traded since the last time we spoke. No surprise, but what do you think went wrong with Keion?
A couple things. Not that anybody's told me this, but this is just my impression from watching practices and watching him on film. I would say he struggled with the football IQ part of his assignments. Also, in terms of this scheme, like he was a much better fit for Belichick and Mayo. And like he was, not that it says much, but he was my highest graded edge player last year on the Patriots. Even if maybe he didn't get the quote unquote sacks, he still did a really good job in terms of, pressure and things like that. But I think he was, look, he doesn't have many pass rush moves. He's not very flexible or bendy on the edge. That was more conducive, a lot more similar to Anthony Jennings, who, I do think is a good player. More conducive to the Belichick Mayo scheme, whether it's on edge on early downs, where he did freelance at times in the previous regime. Then he's the type of guy that you can kick inside to be a 3 technique, a sub rusher in the old scheme. In this scheme, they don't really do that. And really, what we've come to learn about this scheme is they like big, strong, active defensive tackles. They like to play them a lot, even in pass rush situations. They're not just, certainly not just run guys. And they bring everybody, including a guy like Tonga, brings pass rush. And then their edge guys, they want quickness, flexibility, the ability to thinking of like Harold Landry or Chase on, 1 foot up and then dip under in sort of a game with the defensive tackle. And then like Keion White, he just couldn't really do that. And so he was never gonna have a big role here. And, he definitely has talent. I do think the 49ers in Saleh's scheme will be a little bit better fit for him. But again, I don't think, I think he's going to underwhelm in the football IQ department, even though, I don't think they have many rocket scientists over there in San Francisco.
Kyle Dugger, he was traded. Again, no surprise. But to you, where does this leave the safety position moving forward?
Finsky. Look, everybody knows I've never been the biggest Kyle Dugger fan. Even, the year that he got all those interceptions, I would always be the one to be like, look, he's a good player, but and that's all he ever became, because, I don't know. He always, at times he lacked focus and coverage. We all know we've been over it, millions of times. But there, at least he could fill in. He's done that the past couple weeks, or last week or 2 weeks ago. Didn't play at all last week. When Hawkins was out, he did fine. I thought he did a fine job, but not the most challenging assignment against the Titans. And you just worry. I mean, it seemed like Josh Allen always targeted him. So they're thin. I mean, I know they signed some guy off Miami's practice squad who they liked in the pre-draft process, and that's great. And, these guys are batting pretty well on personnel. So definitely defer to them. And, but yeah, it's one of the many thin spots on this team. And I don't know, if we're through 8 games and the Patriots have the greatest NFL injury luck I've ever seen. So if that continues, then it's not going to be an issue. But if it doesn't, they're in trouble in a lot of different spots.
Well, that might not be the case at running back, because the news yesterday that was interesting was obviously, Dearness Johnston ends up signing with the Pats to the practice squad. They now, I believe, have 3 running backs on their practice squad. They have officially signed Terrell Jennings, or are about to sign him to the active roster. When I saw that, I saw the Johnson move. I wondered, is there some kind of an injury issue? And, people came back and said, well, maybe it's just practice squad. I said, yeah, sure. Maybe it is practice squad. And maybe they just like him better than some of the other guys they have on the practice squad. That's certainly a possibility, if not probability. And then we found out he was signed to the practice squad. But then we find out that Rhamondre Stevenson did not practice on Wednesday because of a toe. Now, when I see toe, I get concerned because I think turf toe, and turf toe is not fun. It's like a terrible injury that sounds like it's no big deal. People hear turf toe, they're like, turf toe, who gives a shit? It's not a good injury to have. Okay, not Joe Burrow had turf toe plus some ligament stuff, and he's done for all intents and purposes the season. So Rhamondre Stevenson, cause for concern, Greg.
Yeah, I think so. And you're exactly right. Turf toes is no fun. And it's very painful, especially for, at positions like running back and wide receiver where you're, having to put pressure on your feet. If that's what it is, it's trouble. And that would probably lead to them, probably in most circumstances. I don't know if they would make a decent trade for a running back, but if Stevenson has a legit injury, then yes, you almost have to do that. For some reason, Nick, though, I don't know if somebody said this or I saw it on film, but for some reason I thought Rhamondre got stepped on in the last game, but I could be mistaken. That could be I could have dreamed that. Oftentimes I have weird all 22 dreams. And so that could be that also.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope that it was just a stepping on the toe. Maybe he stubbed his toe at home. Let's hope it's not turf toe, because that would not be good. And of course, that leads us to, what are you hearing about? What could possibly, happen by Tuesday? There's some noise about running back. I threw out Tony Pollard's name earlier today. I mentioned that after the Tennessee game with you, that I thought Pollard just kind of reeked of a Mike Vrabel type player after watching that all 22 on a Tennessee game. I'll get it out soon enough. And then there's also some talk about maybe edge. And so now Keion White gone. You said Thinsky. Rhamondre dealing with this injury. I would say running back is Thinsky. Have you heard anything about what the Pats might do here?
Yeah, I don't have any names, but I've heard they're active on the edge and running back market. And I would recommend some sort of edge. I don't think they are, unless there's a substantial injury like, Rhamondre Stevenson, or, say Chason or Harold Landry goes down this week. I don't think they have really any interest in using premium picks to acquire players.
Yeah.
And Vrabel sort of alluded to this week when he was asked about, the future and, how do you gauge? And, he basically said, like, they came in with a plan, a long-term plan, and that's what they're going to stick with. And this season isn't going to change a whole lot. I mean, mostly because, a lot of the guys who they brought in, and a lot of them are doing really well, but they're all patchwork guys. They're Band-Aids. Even a guy like, Spillane or Carlton Davis or, Kyrus Tonga, there's some guy, Garrett Bradbury. Like, there's all these guys that they brought in to sort of like what the Commanders did last year, brings you up to a certain level, but you can't fall in love with those guys, even though you might love them this year. You got to starting the process of replacing them. So when those guys do leave in a year or two, and that comes through the draft. And so I think they wanted to raise the floor. They have. Drake May's made a big leap, which makes them more of a real factor in the AFC. But does that change the overall plan that Vrabel and Cowden and Stryker have for this program? I don't think it does. But edge and running back, I would expect them. They need help at those positions. And, maybe they get a look at the guys on the practice squad this week. Like you said, there's three of them: Rashawn Baker, Jonathan Ward, and Dearness Johnson. Yeah, they're going to run the wishbone the rest of the season.
Yeah.
You get a look at them over the next, week, this week, and then see who you might like, who you don't like, and then go from there.
I'm going to speak this into existence. I'm going to put this on the record. If it happens, CLNS better pump my tires. Defensive end. I tweeted this the other day, yesterday, at Nick C Radio. Zach Jackson, I do believe is his name. I just looked it up. Zach Jackson of The Athletic wrote about the Cleveland Browns and some guys that could be available. He mentioned Alex Wright. Now, I might be just falling in love with Alex Wright based off what I saw in the Cleveland-Miami game and, a little bit here and there against the Patriots, but I would be all over Alex Wright. And Zach Jackson said that it would probably cost a 5th-round pick. Give me Alex Wright for a 5th. Give me Tony Pollard for a 6th, and I'd be very happy with that. Those are two guys that I think could help this team right away. You're not giving up a lot. Alex Wright is still young. If you like him, you might be able to keep him around for a couple of years on edge. Kayvon Chason, 1-year deal. Let's not forget that. So I would take a swing at Alex Wright. If it is a 5th-round pick, I would certainly take a swing at Tony Pollard, who I think is a good football player on a very bad team. And I think those two spots, if you were able to have those two guys come in and play those two spots, I think it would make your team better. So that's what I want to speak into existence. A 5th for Alex Wright, a 6th for Tony Pollard. All right, before we get to Falcons-Patriots, Greg wants to tell you about Prizepicks.
Yes, I do. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prizepicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on Prizepicks, where it's good to be right. Prizepicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prizepicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. And you know what that means. You want to pick Drake May's over more on passing yards, rushing yards, and touchdowns? Of course you do. You're all pants off about Drake May, which you should be. Wasn't that great in the first half last week. Just letting you know. But he was awesome in the second half, which is great. But you can go on there and you can pick Drake May 3 times. Of course you want to do that. Get over there and do it. On Prizepicks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want bigger payouts, go for the power play. That's what I do. No matter your play, Prizepicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Go big or go home with the power play. Don't give me any of this flex play. No way. I'm not doing that. Download the Prizepicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, it's good to be right.
And for those listening, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. For those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel, where you can find our show, a lot of other great Patriots content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. And you also want to check out Greg Bedard, Mike Giardi, great work they do at BSJ, $50 for the year. All right, Falcons, Patriots, let's get into it. Just a big picture thought about the Falcons. I saw your notes, and I think we see this team in a similar way. I'm not really sure what Falcons team we're going to see. When they look bad, they look like the drizzling shits. When they look good, their defense is flying around, and Bijan Robinson is making plays. You feel that same way about this team, where it's flip a coin almost on Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just go through their schedule. I mean, they lose week 1 by 3 points to the Buccaneers. Nothing wrong with that. They go to Minnesota, Sunday night game, and pretty much beat up the Vikings. And JJ McCarthy was playing at that time. I don't know if that was his last game or not, but they made him look like a rookie. Then they go to the Panthers and play one of the worst games you'll ever see. Turn the ball over like 8 billion times and basically hand the Panthers a 30-0 victory.
Michael Penix was so bad in that game. It's almost, I can't even describe, I can't give it justice how bad he was in that game.
Yeah. And then then they're at home for the next 2. They beat the Commanders. They beat the Bills, of course. Everybody saw that game. That was that was
Monday night.
Monday night game? Yeah.
Yeah.
An early Monday night game. And they pretty much dominated the Bills. If Raheem Morris wasn't a jackass and not taking field goals and going up 2 scores, they win that game going away. Which this is a coaching mismatch, in my opinion, between Mike Vrabel and Raheem Morris. And then they look terrible against the 49ers. They're horrible against the Dolphins last week with Kirk Cousins. Now, I haven't watched that game. I don't even know if I'm going to bother watching that game. I really want to go back. I want to go back and watch the Bills game because, Drake May and Josh Allen are kind of similar. They got a lot of pressure. How did they defend Josh Allen? Are they going to do? I assume they're going to do the same thing against Drake May. Of course, the Bills were in a bad way at that point in time. The Patriots had just beaten them the week before. So some of it, I think a lot of it was, on the Bills. But yeah, this team could be a world beater. I mean, they have talent, all over the place. I like the way Penix throws the ball, except he never uses the middle of the field. He always he basically throws intermediate to the sideline, like all day long. Got a great release, but he can be a little slow. He's not very athletic. Doesn't really scramble all that much. Bijan Robinson, of course, is great. I'm still waiting. Maybe this is the week where an offensive coordinator uses their running backs to target the Patriots linebackers and safeties in coverage. I would do that all day long with Bijan Robinson, but nobody's done it to this point. Drake London, if he's back, he missed last week. really good player. He's the guy they look for on third down. Really would like to see Christian Gonzalez start getting him some showcase matchups, which he should get here coming up, hopefully starting with this one. They have they're fast on defense. They blitz a lot. Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, does a lot of really good things. Used to be with the Jets. Don't remember him, under him and Saleh. I don't remember him being this aggressive before, but they blitz a lot. One of the highest blitz rates in the league, especially on third down or passing situations. So they got the two rookie on the ends. They're fast. They have AJ Terrell at cornerback. Matthews at left tackle is a good player. So a talented team, but they just, you never know. I mean, could they come in here and beat the Patriots? Yes. Could the Patriots blow them out by halftime? Yes.
It's really weird. So I watched the Miami-Cleveland game. Ugh. Going back, getting ready for the Cleveland Browns matchup. And when I tell you the Miami Dolphins looked like the worst team in football, I'm not kidding. In that game, they did everything wrong. Tua was a disaster. Their defense was terrible. They had, 3 or 4 just god-awful penalties. And I would say their defense may be awful as a stretch. Their defense wasn't good, but what really hurt the defense was just these ill-advised penalties at awful times. Special teams, I don't think it looked like an operation that was not ready to play football. The Miami Dolphins against the Browns looked like they quit. Like it looked like they wanted nothing to do with the season. Mike McDaniel looked defeated on the sidelines wearing sunglasses when it's raining outside. Don't get it. And so like you're going into the Atlanta game last weekend and you're thinking, all right, well, Atlanta's coming off a pretty bad loss, right? Do I have that right? Yeah, they lost to San Francisco the week before. And so you say to yourself, well, Atlanta's looked better at home, which they have for the most part. Miami looks like they're just disheveled and waiting for their head coach to be fired at any moment. And then what happens last weekend? The Falcons just get bullied by the Miami Dolphins of all teams. The Dolphins are not known for bullying people, okay? Mike McDaniel is not known as a, rough and tough and gritty head coach. And Atlanta just pretty much, like my dog Sammy does on the back, showing the belly for a belly rub. That's what Atlanta did last weekend. It was so odd. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I don't know what to expect from this team on Sunday. I have no clue. I agree with you, Greg. Atlanta could come out motivated because how they looked last weekend, trying to prove something. Maybe they get healthier. Penix is limited on Wednesday. We'll see what happens at practice on Thursday. London was limited. Darnell Mooney, really the only speed element to that team, is limited. Defensively, Jalen Walker's missed the last couple games. Billy Bowman has a hamstring issue that he's dealing with. Oh, and by the way, I forgot Kyle Pitts also showed up on the injury report this week with an ankle. So I don't know who's playing, and I don't know if Jekyll or Hyde's going to show up. And that makes it pretty difficult to figure things out. One more question on the Atlanta offense. Major weaknesses that you see or know of regarding this offense.
Yeah, so some of my notes. Well, first of all, personnel wise, I would go after the right tackle because they're McGarry is on
Elijah
IR.
Wilkinson. Elijah
Wilkinson has allowed. He leads the team with 22 pressures. Chris Lindstrom is second with 20. Bijan Robinson has actually given up 8, so I might go after him in pass pro, make him pass pro. But some of my notes, we're talking about the Falcons defense or offense. They're second in the league in 12 personnel usage. The Patriots are 28th in EPA against that, so that's two tight ends on the field. Third most in motion, so I would say communication adjustments on the Patriots defense will be important. I would say The Patriots haven't been great at that. You get some occasional, even last week, there were some occasional busts with, whether it was Robert Spillane being aggressive on, not covering. Looks like there was one time where Marcus Jones, who played a really good game, it seemed like he was the only one in man coverage and everybody else was in zone. And of course, they threw it right to the void in the zone where Jones would be. So I'm a little bit worried about that. The Falcons offense, which I do not like, Zach Robinson, for all we could start a list, Nick. Remember the push talking about like people didn't want Josh McDaniels. They wanted the tight pants guy.
Yeah.
McVay or Shanahan. All of those guys have pretty much like stunk. Like, Nick Caley in Houston. Zach Robinson is another guy. Like their offense like stinks. Like they're 32nd in play action. They're 31st in under center rate. Like it's pretty much all gun, especially when Michael Penix is out there. Like I said, they never throw in the middle of the field. They aren't good at throwing deep. The line doesn't give up a whole lot of pressure, but definitely some weak spots that the Patriots will look to go after.
All right, we'll get to the Falcons defense against this Patriots offense in a minute. Don't forget CLNS, Media Network, Celtics All Access, behind-the-scenes content, the NBA History Channel, Bruins Ringside, and, of course, our beloved Patriots Press Pass. Defensively, Greg, with this team, Atlanta, what would concern you if you're Josh McDaniels watching film?
Yeah, pressure. I mean, these guys, they lost Divine Diablo, the linebacker that McDaniels had in Vegas. I've watched a lot of his films over the years. He's kind of he's not the smartest player in the world, but the dude's a great athlete. And he really found a home, with their pressure units. And they bring, like I said, they're number one on blitz rate, 48%, almost half the dropbacks they're blitzing. Normally it's a 5-man pressure. So they're going to attack the rules. They're going to stress the Patriots protection. I don't have any. Drake may be fine with it. Kid's unflappable. He kills the blitz. He kills man. He kills zone. He kills everything. That's just where he is at this point in time. Very fast. So I'm worried about that. If I'm the Patriots, I'm looking to attack the middle of the field. The Falcons are 28th in middle of the field EPA. Pat's offense is 3rd in middle of the field EPA. Don't think their run defense is pretty good. They're 9th in the league in passer rating, defensive passer rating, 1st in the league, 41% 5-man pressure rate. They do not play a lot of 2-shell. They're last in the league in 2-shell safeties, 2 high safeties. So you get a lot of, safety down in the box. They're 9th in explosive play allowed, so they don't give up a lot of big plays. Patriots are hitting some big plays, the deep passes. They don't give that up. I think Drake's going to have to live in this game probably short to intermediate and quick. Don't hang on to the ball like he did in the first half at times against the Browns last week. I forgot to look at I did put together my DVOA compilation for this game just to give people, because I don't love success rate. So the Falcons defense is 10th. Their pass defense is 8th. That would be better than the Browns. The Browns came in as good as their defense was, and it's good. They came in 14th in pass DVOA last week. So this Falcons defense is a step up. But the rush defense is only 23rd. So it'd be nice, get a little bit more balance, run the ball pretty well. I think they had the Travion Henderson, Rhamondre, whoever, have a chance to build off of what they did last week.
All right, we're going to get to the pick in a minute, but don't forget, Prizepicks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So Greg and I remain neck and neck here, 5-3 straight up, 6-2 against the spread. So that's good. Let's look at this weekend. Patriots right now, Greg, Thursday afternoon, are favored by 5.5. The over-under is 44.5. What say you?
So I have a feeling that we might differ. And I am going to put this with a caveat. I mean, everybody knows, my final pick comes out on on Saturday. I have not had a chance to watch film yet on the Falcons, and I am going to watch the Buffalo game tonight or tomorrow. But as of the moment, I think the spread is too much. I think we get the good Falcons this week. They're getting guys back from injury, it seems. We'll have to see exactly who ends up playing. If they don't have Jalen Walker, maybe things are a little bit different, and Bowman and those guys. But it seemed like Raheem Morris was optimistic that they were going to get a bunch of guys back this week, including Penix. If they're playing Kirk Cousins, forget it. This is off the board. But if it's Michael Penix and not Kirk Cousins, I think the Falcons are going to hit some plays. I think they're a little bit of a tough matchup for the Patriots. I think I like the Falcons' speed on defense. I think Ulbrich does a good job. That they played the Bills and Josh Allen already, I think gives them an idea how to play. Drake May and the Patriots. And I will just say this, and I'm not overly worried about it. But for as good as Drake has been statistically, I would say the past 2 weeks have not been as good. And that's all I'll just say not as good as the previous 3 when he was like through the roof. And so, but I'm not worried about it because of Josh McDaniels and also that Drake May adjusts. Seemingly every week, from half to half or game to game, he makes corrections. So I'm not overly worried about it. But, if there was a spot where I think they might hit a little low, this might be it. So as of the moment, I'm gonna pick the Patriots to win by 3, and I'm gonna say like 27-24, something like that.
All right. 27-24 Pats. Of course, keep an eye out for Greg's final prediction on Saturday. I will give you my prediction, Locked On Patriots, during Friday's episode. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the football. We will be back live next Tuesday, 12:15-ish on YouTube to react to this game. Until then, we wish you well.